We are in Chapter 9, and this is Part 5 of The Manipulated Mind by Denise Wynn. Individuals are invited to share experiences and griefs which the trainer will then knock down and ridicule in an effort to make the person see what a mess he is making of his life. Attacks can be aggressive enough to make people vomit. Vomit bags are provided, and get headaches and backaches. The participants carry out special exercises designed to make them see and like themselves for what they are. Most eventually get it, the est word for insight. At the end of the weekend, after sharing all the public humiliation and personal anxiety and stress, participants commonly feel a tremendous warmth towards and bond with each other. Many people feel they have a radical new perspective on their lives, one that is shared by the in-group, the est graduates, and not by the out-group, everyone outside. Elements of est are obviously very similar to the Chinese mode of thought reform, particularly in the revolutionary colleges where students were obliged to confess their sins and experience public humiliation. They interpreted their relief after confession as proof of the rightness of the new way. Such group methods seem to generate not independence from a certain debilitating emotional block, but dependence on the environment where the block was unblocked. Very many people become group habitués, seeking the warmth that comes from soul-bearing. Est graduates can attend more and more courses, although it might be wondered that if they had got it the first time, why do they have to come back and get it again? Or more pertinently, what is it that they are really getting in the first place? The therapeutic environment, traditional or modern, would seem not to be influence-free. The modus operandi can generate specific emotions or encourage specific reactions. Behaviorist B.F. Skinner goes even further and maintains that even if therapy could be influence-free, it would not foster the illusion that a client was self-directing. In a dialogue with Carl Rogers, he corresponds to Rogers' claim that client-centered therapy, where the client expresses exactly what he likes and the therapist simply listens, is the answer to the therapeutic control. What evidence is there that a client ever becomes truly self-directing? What evidence is there that he ever makes a truly inner choice or ideal or goal? Even though the therapist does not do the choosing, even though he encourages self-actualization, he is not out of control as long as he holds himself ready to step in when occasion demands. When, for example, the client chooses the goal of becoming a more accomplished liar or murdering his boss. But supposing the therapist does withdraw completely or is no longer necessary, what about all the other forces acting upon the client? Is the self-chosen goal independent of his early ethical and religious training, of the folk wisdom of his group, of the opinions and attitudes of others who are important to him? Surely not. The therapeutic situation is only a small part of the world of the client. From the therapist's point of view, it may appear to be possible to relinquish control, but the control passes not to a self, but to forces in other parts of the client's world. The solution of the therapist's problem of power cannot be our solution, for we must consider all the forces acting upon the individual. The hard sell. Advertising by its nature is designed to influence. While that is no surprise, the industry has taken itself increasingly seriously over the last decade, trying to find new, more effective and more subtle ways to sell the products it is paid to sell. Some of the appeals that are made through advertising aim for the same emotional weak spots that have been seen to make people vulnerable to influence in other unrelated spheres. There is, for instance, the familiar appeal of authority figures. Men in white coats eulogize the virtues of a particular denture cleanser or cough medicine because they summon up associations with doctors and scientists professional men who know what they are talking about. If many people who watch advertisements believe they are immune to such rather transparent sales tactics, are they as immune to the same sell when it is used by newspapers? If a journalist is writing an article about gossip or the sex appeal of hair preparations, he is quite likely to ring, or to be told by his editor to ring, a psychologist or psychiatrist for an informed opinion on why gossiping can be a useful thing to do, or why certain smells on the hair can be sexually arousing. The psychologist or psychiatrist who finds himself on the end of the telephone talking to the journalist may well have no particular expertise on the matter, or why should he? But will probably be willing to offer some common sense suggestion that an insurance salesman, an architect, or the journalist himself could just as easily have supplied. However, because the words were said by a psychiatrist or psychologist who was expert in knowing how people tick, the sentiments take on an acceptable ring of authority, acceptable to the journalist, editor, and the people who read it. Who is to say, therefore, whether the advertisement viewer unconsciously endows the white-coated promoter of cough mixture with expertise worthy of respect? The housewife who promotes cough mixture can only say her children like it and get well quicker, etc. We will not let her get away with saying, I know this works because I tested it in the laboratories. Superficially, adverts can be seen to appeal to the universal thirst for social approval, provided by having a car, house, freezer, stereo system, or draft proofing that is at least as good as, but preferably better than, one's neighbors. But much more goes into the planning of advertisement strategies than capitalism or capitalization on people's acquisitive instincts. Advertising is almost a science. Vance Packard describes the growth in sophisticated advertising adjuncts in The People Shapers. His first demographics, whereby the population is segmented according to age, income, education, occupation, ethnic background, size of family, etc., in order to identify the best prospects for a product, but that was not refined enough, says Packard. Today, many ambitious marketers consider demographics just the beginning. They call next for the psychographics. Enter the behavioral specialists. The behavioral specialists then build psychological profiles of each target group. This time, people are grouped according to their interests, lifestyles, status, aspirations, self-image, attitudes, and fears and prejudices. And that's where I'm going to stop. This was part 5 of chapter 9. We're reading from the Manipulated Mind, and we will continue with part 6 of chapter 9 in the next video, and I'll see you there.